Today in the shop, I'm going to show you how I like to lacquer tweed cabinets. I just built this cabinet here, covered it with tweed, and now it's time to give it that cool old world lacquer finish. So the way I like to do that is not to go buy Zinzender or Bullseye shellac from a hardware store. I prefer to use de-waxed shellac flakes. You get the de-waxed shellac flakes online, you pick your color, and I've been happy with the several brands I've been able to get. It's pretty inexpensive. Then you're going to need a bottle of Everclear or Golden Grain. Golden Grain's a little cheaper, but you're going to need something that's 190 proof to dissolve the lacquer flakes. You can't use vodka. You got to use an Everclear or something similar. Put your shellac flakes in a mason jar and then add Everclear or Golden Grain to it. And then you can shake it up and you can watch your shellac flakes begin to dissolve. Now really, it'll take overnight to dissolve the flakes all the way. You can work on your ratio. You don't want it to be like honey, you don't want it to be too thick like honey that you can't spread across, but you also don't want it to be too watery. So you can just play around with your mixture, and then we'll move to the next step. Now, when you're covering a tweed cabinet, a thing to pay attention to is when you unroll your tweed. If for some reason your tweed that you're covering a cabinet with has been folded up or has wrinkles in it, you really don't want to use those wrinkled pieces, because for whatever reason, when you go to lacquer those wrinkled pieces, you're gonna see those wrinkles come back, and unfortunately they don't go away. So when you cover your cabinets, you want to make sure you use clean, flat tweed and you wrap it. Another thing to pay attention to is that if you have glue that has Tolex glue that's seeped out of a seam, you're going to want to go ahead and rub that off. Now it's going to absorb into the tweed a little bit, and that's good, but it also means I have to be careful that I don't just want to soak the whole thing down with lacquer, because it will soak into the edges and into the corners and they'll become discolored. A thing about shellac is that because it has this grain alcohol in it, it dissolves and it dries pretty quickly. So it's actually really, that's one of the good things about working with shellac, is that you add it and it will dry really quickly, and then you can reapply if you want to. Another thing about shellac is because you've used the alcohol to dissolve shellac flakes, what happens is you're depositing the shellac, dissolved shellac on top of the thing, and it's making a coating on it. The nice thing about shellac is that when you add more shellac on top of it, the next layer will kind of just burn into the layer before, instead of forming these layers like a polyurethane finish would do. So shellac is good in that way. Another way I use shellac is if I'm going to French polish something. So I build a raw cabinet head that if it's high gloss, I'll put several coats on and I'll go through a French polish process, which I can show you that in another video. But for today, it's just going to be lacquering tweed. I'm going to go ahead and just get right to it. So you want to find yourself an inexpensive brush, but not the cheapest brush. You want one that the bristles aren't going to start coming off into the shellac. The cheapest chip brushes, the bristles just fall out and they wind up in your finish, and that's no good. So you want to step it up, but this is still just a really cheap brush. I'm going to start with this back panel, and here we go. Now you can always use the light in your room to see what you've done. I usually like to start at the bottom of something or the back of something first. Even strokes, even coverage, you're just spreading it out. And I'm not trying to soak it, I'm just going for even coverage. Make sure if it's pooling up somewhere that you spread it out. Alright, set it to the side. Now for this cabinet, I'm going to start on the bottom. I'm going to start on the bottom and flip it over. Notice that I went ahead and put some screws in it so they will stand off. I'm going to flip this thing over, I can set it down. And it will be okay. Now you can spray shellac, and I do sometimes, but I really, anytime I'm doing a tweed cabinet like this, I just feel comfortable doing it with a brush. Again, not soaking it. I'm going to soak it. Just want even coverage. And put any brush strokes. it's better to do thin coats and add another coat than it would be to put it on way too thick and soak the cloth and discolor it. All right. That's it. It'll dry quickly. If I need another coat, which I really don't think I do, you don't really need a heavy coat. But the nice thing about shellac is you can go back later and add more. I mean later as in 1 year, 2 years, 5 years. Shellac also tends to darken a little bit with age. Now if you'd like a darker look to your tweed, you can use darker shellac flakes. They're available. These are, I believe, blonde shellac flakes. Yeah, I believe these are blonde, but you can go for more of an amber. You can mix a blonde and an amber together, but I really like this color. I'm really happy. And again, love it. You can just keep adding it back later on. You can use it on wood finishes. It can also be buffed out if you're going to use it on a natural wood finish, something that you've really sanded down and you want it to have a brilliant shine to it. You can layer it. It'll layer after layer will burn into each other, and then you can polish it afterwards. Now, the advantage of a shellac is that it's not a thick, unnatural coating to the wood. It's actually a natural coating that will allow the wood to continue to breathe, and it doesn't just trap everything in there. It's old school. It's fresh. Well, thanks for watching. I'm gonna let this dry. Thanks for watching. Hope you'll like this video, subscribe to the channel, and thanks a lot. That's it. Peace.